Skirt, skirt. Told you we always been ready. I don't need people that's petty, that weigh on me heavy while I'm being steady. I need a record with Felly. We get it bouncing like Betty's, I feel like I'm Nelly. Don't bring the beef like a deli. It's leave on a levy, no sleeping on me like I'm Freddy. Chris Breeze, how I do, hit him with the moves. Left hand step back, ballin' like I'm Coos. All faith, God's plan, you just gotta choose. God slaps, nothing left to prove. Y'all gotta leave me alone. Lately I've been in my zone. Told them no cap like I fitted, but lately the flows have been straight off the dome. I feel like I'm MVP, like my name Patty Mahomes. If it ain't about money, don't hit up my phone, cause lately I've been in my zone.
Hello, welcome to the Cowboy Show, hosted by Ben Carey and Nick Gronerad, combining expert human opinions with cutting-edge simulation models to help you arrive at the best picks each week. Inside Edge Community. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to tonight's stream. We've got some Monday Night Football action between the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Ben, your name has never been more appropriate than it is tonight.
Yeah, I thought I was trending on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, you are. I don't think that anybody is talking about the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers quite probably making his last ever home start. I think they're all talking about you.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a Super Bowl ring. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got two, which is
two.
Twice
That's right.
as cool. It's like exponentially cooler, right? The more you get. There's like a lot, relatively speaking, a lot of people have one, a lot less people have two. And then when you get up into like the 5, 6 range, now you're in real rarefied air.
Nick, I think you should make a scatter plot of that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, it would definitely be like an exponential. I guess an exponential decline.
Tom Brady. NBA too. Robert Ory.
Yeah, or the guy from the Celtics, Sam Harris, that passed away.
Yeah.
He's got 10.
Bill Russell's up there too.
But yeah, long story short, big storyline for tonight's game is that this is Ben Roethlisberger's final game in Pittsburgh. I think everybody is assuming that he's going to be retiring. He alluded to the fact that his career in Pittsburgh, at least, is up after this year. I really can't see him playing anywhere else. I think that's a pretty popular opinion. I'm not expecting like the Broncos to be in the Big Ben market in the offseason or something.
I mean, the way we never mind.
Well, I mean, right? It's what you do. At least recently, you suck for a couple of years, and then you bring in an old Hall of Fame quarterback on the decline, and then they have a good year, lead you to a Super Bowl, right off into the sunset.
I mean, that fits the NFL's scripted narrative, right? Like that's the Broncos script. It's every 5 years we repeat the process.
Yeah, so maybe Ben's the guy. Although I think that there's a couple other guys who are a little bit more likely to fit the bill.
Yeah.
So all of that said, we of course do have a lot of other people playing in this game, aside from just Ben Roethlisberger. In fact, we have 2 entire teams, not just one player, despite what the media might have you think. So right now, I think actually the line on DraftKings just moved. But I'm showing, I guess it's kind of all over the board. Actually, no, this jumps to -2 everywhere. So we got Steelers -2. This just happened in the last 5 minutes because it was 2.5, 3 everywhere. But now I'm showing 2 on BetMGM, 2 on Caesars, 2 on Circa, 2 on Superbook. FanDuel still has a 2.5. PointsBet still has a 3. But I'm expecting those are quick to follow.
Yeah.
So Steelers -2 at home. Over under is still sitting at 43.5. So let me make this change real quick to -2. But Ben, anything that you'd like to say about this game?
Well, +3 for the Browns was sitting there for a majority of the day. And to be quite frank, I think a lot of sharper bettors were on the Browns at that number at +3.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. So this opened up, I mean, and was, like you said, sitting at Browns +3 for a long time. It actually opened up at Browns -3. And is there any reason, like Asim was just saying as well, that this swung from Browns -3 earlier in the week all the way up to Browns +3 and now kind of back to Browns +2?
So we can confirm it was at Browns -3 earlier in the week, like Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, like over New Year's. Really, I mean, from like the 26th look ahead lines all the way through the 2nd. It was
Is it
at -3, even
is
-3.5.
Is this just the Big Ben narrative?
I kind of think so, right? So Kareem Hunt is out. He's been questionable all week, and I mean, and he's a situational running back. He's a very good one, but that is all he is. Aside from that, there's not really any significant injuries on either team. So I think that a lot of this line move is the Big Ben narrative, and people also kind of hopping on the fact that the Browns are now eliminated from playoff contention, whereas the Steelers still have something to play for. But I honestly don't think that means a whole lot, especially in a game like this. And why is that? This is the last time that the Browns are ever going to play Ben Roethlisberger. If you think that they're not motivated to whoop his ass the last time after getting their ass whooped for the last 17, 18 years, you're crazy. There's going to be absolutely no motivation issues on the side of the Browns tonight. At least I don't think there are.
Mm-hmm. And Nick, Baker Mayfield, right? I think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and I think he's going to be focused because there's a lot that could happen this offseason with him. I don't know if Cleveland sticks with him. I don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to test the free agent market or how strong the market will actually be. But I will tell you this, if he can come out and have a good game, that's going to have a nice taste in the front offices of teams potentially looking for a quarterback. So I'm not worried about any sort of motivational factor from the Browns in this spot.
So is Baker Mayfield a free agent after this year, or doesn't he have his 5th-year contract?
I don't think he's not a free agent next year, but at this point in the NFL and in NBA and other sports, the contracts don't mean that much. I mean, as far as if you really want to go to another team or want to leave, it can make it more difficult, but any quarterback, any player at any time who's talented enough can sit out and just say, I'm not going to play. And then,
but that's not going to happen with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, it's not going to happen with him, but I will say if there was any sort of dispute, like he could test his talent and just see if there is a market for him. But either way you put it, like he's going to want to come out and play good tonight. So
yeah. So I guess the moral of that story is, or at least my take on this, is that this line has swung a little bit too much. I think that these teams are quite even. They played one time earlier this year. It was a 5-point win for the Steelers. They beat the Browns 15-10 in Cleveland. That being said, I mean, it was a pretty coin flippy game, and I think that this one's going to be pretty much the same. So the model has this game at 22.44 for Pittsburgh to 21.18 for Cleveland. So it's Pittsburgh by about 1.25 points as opposed to the 2 that Vegas has, and it's a total of 23.6 as opposed to, or 43.6 as opposed to 43.5 that Vegas has. So from the model perspective, we're expecting basically the exact same number as what Vegas has set right here. But Ben, do you have any thoughts? Are you buying into Big Ben coming out, having a big game, and leading the Steelers to a big blowout win, or do you think it's a little bit of a letdown spot?
Definitely a letdown spot, but I liked the 3 for Cleveland +3 a lot earlier in the day. I guess I lean Browns at +2, but I do think there is something there. with Big Ben in his last game. Like, they're all aware of it. But at the same time, I still think the Cleveland Browns are a decent team. So, man, a 6-point swing is pretty significant. You don't see that often.
Especially without any injury news.
Yeah, without any injuries. And yeah, that scares me a little bit. So I think for me, it's got to be a lean of +2 to the Browns or nothing here.
Yeah, I'm with you. It feels a little bit bad missing out on the +3, at least from the stream perspective. I mean, +3 was definitely the time to take the Browns if you were on the Browns. I think either the +2 or even the money line at +110 could be good looks. Although I think even at +110, a lot of the value in the money line is gone. I was seeing like a +130 even an hour ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a game like this, that is a pretty significant difference.
The +2 would be in that Wong teaser territory, though. Tease that up to +6.5, or sorry, 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you gonna tease it with, though? I personally don't like teasing the over-unders like in the same game, but
yeah, I mean, well, that's what Asen did. He said locked in Browns +3 earlier, which is the best number to get that at, and Browns +10 under 50.5. So 7 points on each for the same game.
So Nick, here's my question with the Wong teaser. The numbers would say, this is just what they're saying. They would say that Asim's teaser was not, well, the first leg wasn't a statistical.
I think it's all with it. Doing it in the same game is different because all of the Wong teaser math is based on teasing separate games. There's correlations involved if you're dealing with teasing both things in the same game.
Mm-hmm.
But
Nick, I'm talking strictly to the +3.
Yeah.
Because in theory he got better closing line value, but
again, it only that math is only true if you're talking about teasing it with another pick from a separate game. It just doesn't compare.
Mm-hmm. I guess my point is if he teased that number with another game that fit the Wong, that technically wouldn't fall in the Wong teaser category because he got it at +3. But that's silly to me because that's a better value than +2. Are you following me?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's because of the push at 3 versus the loss at 3.
Yeah,
is the difference.
Anything on the total, Nick?
As far as the total is concerned, not a whole lot. I mean, Model likes the over by 1/10 of a point, so I guess I'd have to say the over. I think if you're thinking about Big Ben coming out and slinging the football around, you also kind of have to like the over. But I wanna abstain from the total. That's me personally. So we'll go ahead as far as the leans are concerned and throw up Cleveland. Although again, it is kind of I would say a pretty weak lean. Definitely not something I have any actual action on. So real quick, I have a couple interesting stats about how these teams are performing. So the Steelers have played really well at home this year. They are 5-2-1 at home. And the Browns have been pretty bad on the road. They are 2-5 on the road. Although the Browns' road schedule, and actually the Steelers' road schedule as well, have been extremely hard, extremely difficult schedules. I think that for the Browns, I guess I can talk about it. So the only teams that they've played on the road, Kansas City, Minnesota, LA Chargers, Cincinnati, New England, Baltimore, Green Bay. That's why they're 2-5 on the road. So I've seen people talking about, the Browns are bad on the road this year. The Steelers are good at home. It's all because of the teams that they've played. So I'm not buying a whole lot into that. And also, just in case anybody was curious, playoff scenario for the Steelers. Because again, the Steelers are competing for the playoffs, and this is a must-win game for them to make the playoffs. So in order for the Steelers to make the playoffs, they have to win their game today they have to win on the road against Baltimore next week. They need for the game between the Chargers and the Raiders next week to not end in a tie. So just one of those teams has to win. And they need the Jaguars to beat the Colts. So it is still technically in their hands, but they do need, again, the Jaguars to beat the Colts in a must-win game for the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
Which is unlikely.
Yeah.
Shall we say.
Pretty unlikely there. But hey, crazier things have happened this year. I guess that would that be the biggest outright win for an underdog at plus 14?
Probably. I mean, it's not at plus 14. It's got to be more than that. I saw somebody posting Twitter about it at 15.5.
Oh, it's already.
I mean,
it's going up.
It's going to go into the 20s. I'm pretty sure. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, who's betting on Jacksonville? No, there's nobody betting on Jacksonville.
I bet it gets a 17. I wouldn't bet it at. I would have to bet it at 20.
Yeah.
They're so bad right now.
They're terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, enough about next week's Jaguars-Colts game. Let's hop into the player prop market.
Yeah, Mayfield is playing, by the way.
Yeah. I'm about to take the Browns to the Super Bowl, if you know what I mean. I think the only place you can do that right now is in Madden.
I think he is referring to his toilet.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
could do that too. That is actually probably what he was talking about. I think that went a little over my head.
Yeah. And guys, in case you're wondering, I don't think either Nick or I are going to take our shirts off and leave midstream either. So got that going for us.
What are the odds on that? I mean, we can take bets because it's rigged, right?
We control the outcome.
So if anybody wants to bet on whether or not either of us are going to leave with our shirts off in the middle of the stream, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
I'd be happy to take those bets. All right. So on to the prop market. And as always, we're going to start out with passing yards props. So we've got Baker Mayfield over under 217.5, Ben Roethlisberger over under 240.5. So Ben, any thoughts on either of these?
Big Ben over, right? We have to do it. No.
Yeah, that's probably not the most popular play. There's a wide receiver receiving yards over play that I've seen all over the place.
Yeah, there's a few.
Most popular, but
this has to be up there. It's got to be top 5.
It's got to be up there, right? And I think that the correlated play, which is the Chase Claypool receiving yards over, right? I mean, what is that? That's people saying Ben's going to ball out, but it's like 2 square to take Ben's passing yards. So we're going to find somebody else.
Yeah, we're smarter than the books.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't necessarily make it a bad bet, but
yeah,
if that's the train of thought.
The other popular one, Nick, is Big Ben over 1.5 passing touchdowns at minus 110. It's a pretty popular one.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, I really don't hate any of this. Synchronicity says 2 DBs out for the Browns. Haven't they been out? Is there any new news on that front? I think they have guys who have been out. I don't think there's any new news. If I'm wrong, let me know. And Perfect B says Big Ben in prime time. Any good history there? I don't really know.
It's just it's hard because
player performances at certain times.
Yeah, you're basically comparing Big Ben of 10 years ago. It's a totally different player than now. So
yeah, I mean, and primetime games, right? You're selecting for a certain type of team, also.
Yeah. So.
But yeah. So one thing I think is interesting, because of course, again, everybody's talking about Big Ben. So I did some extra research on Ben Roethlisberger and his passing stats. So his yardage number, as we see, is 240.5. Touchdowns, 1.5. Interceptions is at a half, plus 100 for the over, minus 0.5 for the under, or minus 130 for the under, not minus 0.5. That doesn't make any sense. 22 and a half completions, 34 and a half pass attempts. So with Big Ben, all of these numbers really just come down to whether the Steelers win or lose. In Steelers wins this year, he has gone over this attempts number once, which was an overtime game against Seattle. In Steelers losses, he has gone over this attempts number every single time, 7 out of 7. His completions number at 22 and a half. In wins, he has gone over this number once, that same overtime game against Seattle. So 1 and 6. And again, in losses, he's gone over it 7 out of 7 times. Interceptions at 0.5. Ben, guess how many interceptions Big Ben has thrown in Steelers wins this year?
Total.
2.
0. That's crazy.
Yep. In losses, he's thrown an interception in 6 of 7 games. Touchdowns. There's actually not a whole lot there for touchdowns. But the yards, the last piece of the puzzle. In the 7 wins that he has started for the Steelers this year, he has gone over this number twice, gone under it 5 times, and in losses, he has gone over 6 of 7, under 1 of 7. So very, very strong correlation here between Roethlisberger's passing yardage output, his interceptions, and just pure number of throws volume, and how the Steelers do. So potentially, SGP territory.
Potentially.
With some of these things.
I wonder, Nick, if Big Ben forces the issue a few times tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that's just a square narrative.
It's a squarative.
Squarative. That's a good word.
I kind of like that. I just made it up right now.
Yeah. But we'll get to a guy that I think sneaky that no one's talking about, who I think benefits from all this chatter about Big Ben. But
Ben, if it's.
Yep.
I've got all the puns right now.
You do. Okay. Before we get into rushing, though, we got to talk about Baker Mayfield.
Yes, we do.
Because I just started this off with a whole narrative on how Baker Mayfield has potentially a chip on his shoulder and has to prove himself. And he literally might have a chip on his shoulder. I think he has a bum shoulder.
Yeah, he's got a chip in his shoulder.
In his shoulder. But 218, it's a low number there.
It is. So Baker Mayfield has been struggling a little bit recently. Again, he's had the shoulder injury for a while. I think since week 6 against Arizona is when he injured his shoulder. Since then, his passing output has definitely decreased. It's gone down. Prior to that, he was in the mid 200s, 300 plus, pretty much every game. And since then, he's actually maxed out at 247. That's the most passing yards he's had since his shoulder injury.
Wow.
Relative to this number, he's gone over it, I guess actually 3 times, but a couple times just barely over. 225 last time these two teams played. 247 against Baltimore, 222 against Green Bay. And 3 games where he was way under against New England, against Detroit, and against Baltimore. Didn't clip 200 in any of those games. So for Baker Mayfield, I actually kind of lean under a little bit. It's not
well. I'm staying away from that one, of course.
But yeah, I think it's a stay away spot.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Mick Sneak, the model has the total. The score is up there on the screen. So, 21.18 for Cleveland, 22.44 for Pittsburgh, which is a total of 43.62.
Have you ever done that where after a game's over, you're like, wow, that wasn't even close. And then you just added like 21 plus 29 wrong or something? Or is that just me?
No, that's me. I think I've said this a couple times on stream, but people people who like have math degrees, especially like graduate degrees in math, are really, really, really bad at adding up small numbers.
It's because it's the way your mind is built, and then the way you condition yourself to like compute all that other advanced stuff.
But you just stop dealing with numbers altogether.
Yeah.
Like you just do proofs. There are no numbers, so you forget how to deal with numbers, and you're like, it's something like this. Doesn't really matter.
It's funny to me.
It's hilarious. I mean, I've had like in a senior level math class, a professor asked the class to add two-digit numbers for them.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. But that's besides the point. So yeah, any lean on the Roethlisberger?
I mean, a lean would be an under for me, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not touching either of these.
I would lean Roethlisberger under, but if there's ever a prop that has backdoor cover potential for the stupidest reason, this is it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, also, I hit my desk and my camera's out of focus now. Let's try and fix that. It'll figure itself out. All right, so let's move on to Russian props. So we've got Baker Mayfield over under 7.5. D'Ernest Johnson stepping up for Kareem Hunt at 27.5. Najee Harris 73.5. And Nick Chubb 93.5.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
I like Najee Harris's over 73.5, but I like his over 96.5 rushing and passing more than just the rushing.
Yeah, so is that a number that's still available?
It is. I actually just checked on FanDuel, which is very interesting because what is it on DraftKings? 104?
100.5.
100.5?
DraftKings.
Okay. It was up to 103 in some spots, which is really interesting because FanDuel, I'm looking right at it. 96.5 still. So that's interesting.
That is definitely interesting. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up on the side.
Okay, yeah, double check.
So we can show it.
Let me explain my reasoning here. So, number one, I think Najee Harris needs the ball in his hands. I mean, I think that's a good recipe for success for the Steelers, which is no surprise. But another thing that I found interesting is I was looking at his targets, right, out of the backfield, and he's getting a good amount of targets as a whole, but his yards per catch has dropped a little bit since the beginning of the year, and he had a few games where they were outliers. In that Cincinnati game, I mean, he had 19 targets, 14 catches on 102 yards. Mm-hmm. That's an outlier, of course, but I do like what I'm seeing from a target perspective, and also they're looking at him, and even on some that don't show up on the stat sheet, they are designing kind of arrow or option routes, as we call them, where it's a one-on-one with the linebacker. And sometimes if it's there, quarterback will take it. If not, they can look at other options on the field. So overall, I like the added element of the receiving yards. But if Steelers get up, right, he could have 90 yards rushing just from the rushing stat alone. So it's a little bit of a hedge. You're paying a little bit of a tax, right? Because if you add up the rushing and receiving yards that are available on a book like DraftKings, it's going to be a difference of like 5-6 yards. But I'm okay with that in this situation. So, there's my 2 cents on that play, and I like it a lot. I think it's a sneaky play, and I think all the attention is on Big Ben tonight. And I feel like at 96.5 on FanDuel, that's a really good number.
All right, so Ben, can I play a little bit of devil's advocate here?
Absolutely.
So Najee Harris's receiving output, as you were kind of talking about, has, I think the makeup of it has changed. Also, what this game is down to even? Is that real? Yeah.
That's wild.
People are hammering Cleveland.
Man, you could have gotten money line plus 135 for Cleveland, and then also Pittsburgh because it swung within a week. But
I don't think we've seen a number move like this on stream, like a spread. It's moved 1.5 points. I'm showing a -1.
Yeah. Hey, last Monday Night Football game of the year. The Big Ben narrative. Everyone's going to be watching. Manning cast. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy good lineup today. So who knows?
So on the topic of Najee Harris. So I'm going to use the Detroit Lions game, which Big Ben missed. That was the tie in Week 10 as a delineation point. So before that, Harris had a lot more big plays in the receiving game. So just looking at his yards per reception on a game-by-game basis before then, in Week 1, where he didn't really do all that much, he had 4 yards per catch on 1 catch. 8.6, 7.29, 4.8, 10, 7.7, 9.7, 5.3 yards per reception. In the 6 games since then, 4 yards per catch, 4.6, 7, 3, 4, 3 yards per reception. I think that there's a kind of fundamental shift that's happened with Najee Harris. I think the target volume has been pretty consistent. The reception numbers have been consistent, but the yardage has changed. So then, of course, the yards per reception has changed also. So I think that I don't know exactly what's causing that, but I think it's teams scheming against Najee Harris as a deeper threat in the passing game. And I think this is kind of why we've seen, Harris has gone over 20 yards receiving once in that time span since Big Ben missed the game. That being said, if we're buying into the Big Ben is going to slang that thing narrative, then, as he's had a propensity to do, both on and off the field.
I knew that was coming. Oh, that's funny.
Then potentially Harris is in line for some more of that volume or some more shots down the field, but I don't necessarily think so. Also, I think this coincides with Eric Ebron being in and out of the lineup as another potential.
I was actually going to bring up Benny Snell because hasn't Benny Snell been actually getting more snaps as of late?
He had 22% snap count last week in the blowout, but aside from that, no.
Not really? Okay.
No, I think Khalil Balaj has kind of been the...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, actually, not in recent weeks. In the middle of the year, he was. It's been pretty much all Najee. Aside from the blowout last week, Najee, 100%, 96%, 97% snap count. True bell cow. So I'm actually of the opinion that the maybe just the rushing or either just the rushing or just the receiving for Najee Harris. I don't know.
Well, wouldn't you want to take
the rushing would be the way to go?
Yeah, I would say rushing, and then maybe for you, rushing would be the first choice, and then rushing passing, right? Because it would be silly to take just a passing based on what you said. Because he could break one, right?
Yeah, it could definitely break one.
Yeah. Or, what happens if, let's say Steelers get down 2 touchdowns? If you have rushing, you're probably screwed if he hasn't hit it by the 4th quarter. So, but this spread's basically even now, so
yeah,
that's probably unlikely, but you never know.
Nope, you never know. So yeah, That's Najee Harris.
And,
what about
anything on Chubb?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next. So this Steelers run D has been a disaster recently.
Mm-hmm.
Dumpster fire, disaster level run D. Last week against the Chiefs, I get three-headed monster running back. 33 carries for 127 yards, which actually on a per carry basis isn't all that great, only 3.85 yards per carry. But still, the week before that, against the Titans, from their backs, 37 carries, 103 yards. That's almost 5 yards per carry. The week before that, they got dashed for more than 200 by Dalvin Cook. The week before that, they kind of shut down the Ravens' backs, but Lamar Jackson had a big game against them on the ground. The week before that, Joe Mixon, 165 on the ground. They shut down the Chargers and Austin Eckler. I mean, he still had 11 carries for 50 yards, just not a lot of volume. And then the week before that, the Lions' backs, 3 of them combined, 38 carries, 227 yards. They're getting destroyed on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So the Nick Chubb over is a thought.
It is a thought. That is true.
93.5 is a lot of yards, though. The model has him all the way down at 62. Although I will say, the model, I didn't see the news that, the news that Kareem Hunt was out didn't come out until basically the stream started.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't able to rerun the Sims. But Kareem Hunt, you can probably just take his stats and give them to Ernest Johnson instead. I don't think it's going to make a big difference. So we had Hunt at 6 carries for 20 yards, give or take. And I think that's basically where Johnson will be as well.
Mm-hmm.
But even if Chubb gets all that volume, the model only has the Browns at like 82 rushing yards, which I think is a little interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. I don't really want to pick against the model. It has him under by 30 yards,
mm-hmm.
which is massive.
Yeah.
So how has Chubb been doing recently? I mean, he's had a couple letdown games, actually. And I think this is actually probably why. Good game last week against Green Bay, 17 carries for 126. But the 3 weeks before that, 23 carries for 91, 17 for 59, and then 8 carries for 16 yards. So Chubb's been, relatively speaking, a little cold, aside from last week. So I think ultimately I'd like to just fade Chubb here. It's a lot of yards, but I don't want to take an under.
Yeah, I would fade that too. Too many yards there for me.
Yeah. So on to receiving props, I suppose. So is there a team that you'd like to start with? I guess we'll start with the Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers.
We talked about Najee Harris earlier. So we got Chase Claypool over under 40.5. Deontay Johnson 72.5. James Washington 10.5. Najee Harris 23.5. Pat Freiermuth 33.5. Ray McLeod 19.5. So some interesting moves on some of these numbers. Everybody on Twitter was giving out Claypool at like 37.5 earlier today.
Yeah.
And I still like it at 40.
I like it at 42. No.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it got that high, but
I think in some spots it is that high.
Yeah.
Might have come back down to earth. But the other one that moved a lot was Ray McLeod, actually. I think his number was down at 14.5. And I was eyeing that. But it's up to 19.5 now. And that's a big increase.
Mm-hmm.
But any thoughts, especially on these big wide receivers? So everybody's on Claypool. I'm not entirely sure why, if I'm being completely honest.
Well, it's because when you look at Deontay Johnson's number, what is it at 70?
Yeah, 72.
People are probably like, that's a little high. Ooh, Claypool, he's only 40, right? But there's a reason why the numbers are there. I mean, you're not outsmarting anybody.
Mm-hmm. I mean, on a per game basis, Johnson's averaging 77, Claypool's averaging 62. So I mean, Claypool's number from that perspective is kind of good.
Yeah.
But his volume's been a little low the last couple of weeks. Last week, 4 catches for 41 yards on 6 targets. The week before that, no catches for 12 yards. He must have got a lateral or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
0 catches for 12 yards.
Or yeah, that's that.
Sense.
It's that weird. If you if you catch the ball before the line of scrimmage and then pitch it or something. Yeah, there's
something that gives you receiving yards without a reception.
Yeah.
But that's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
8 for 93 against Minnesota the week before that. But then only 2 and 3 catches the 2 weeks before that. So his volume is a little bit low right now. Model does have him going over. Model has him at 48, and it has Johnson going under, down more like 60 and a half. I mean, Johnson's volume has been a little low also.
Yeah.
In recent weeks. So the guy who has actually stepped up that I was looking at is Ray Mcleod. His target volume has actually been quite high in recent weeks. 8 targets in 2 of the last 3 weeks. So I don't know if the value is still there at 19.5. Model has him at 22.5. But Ray Mcleod is kind of interesting.
So is 8 targets the last game?
8 targets against Kansas City and 8 targets against Minnesota.
Wow.
And I think that if the Big Ben is going to be passing the ball a lot narrative is going to be a real thing that happens, everybody's going to benefit from it.
Right.
So maybe what actually might even be more interesting, which I'm going to go take a peek at right now, is, this is actually kind of stupid. Minus 180 for over 1.5 catches for Ray McLeod.
Yeah. I wish if it was 140. Yeah.
I'd like a 2.5. I'd be happy to lay like a minus 120 on that. We'll get to Chubb. We'll get to touchdown stuff in a bit. Cool. But yeah, I think that McLeod is still probably my favorite guy here.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, man.
Yeah.
God, can he catch the ball?
No, he can't.
if there was a book that gave me insurance that said something along the lines of like, if there's a drop pass, like we'll credit you 20 yards, 10 yards or something. But they would never do that. But man, he's so athletic. He just can't catch the ball. You hate to see it.
Yeah. I mean, just born without hands. It's rough. Also, your favorite sports guy says, remember all the great players had monster career-ending games.
Ooh, I don't know about Dan Marino, though.
I think there's a lot of confirmation bias in that kind of thing. Like, we remember all the good ones.
Yeah.
We don't really remember the ones that were like, eh.
Someone said, I hope, and they meant this in a negative way. They said, I hope Big Ben has a bad last game like Dan Marino. But it's technically not his last game. Like, this is his last home game. But
yeah, that's another thing. It's not even his last game. It's his last home game.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that I haven't seen anybody say, Pittsburgh Steelers fans don't really like Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, that's that's a take right there.
It's not a bad take. I lived in Pittsburgh for 3 years. I was around pretty much exclusively Steelers fans.
They don't hate him, but they don't like him.
Nobody liked Ben. So I don't think that's going to be like this big, the crowd is behind him, there's all this emotion.
Ben.
No, it's Ben, get off the field. Please go retire so we can have a new quarterback. Right?
Cue Disney music. Yeah.
Like, I mean, so what has Ben done for that city? I mean, brought them 2 Super Bowls, yeah. But, I mean, that's their expectation in Pittsburgh. He's also sexually assaulted, harassed, raped women in the city. I don't think. I mean, some people might weigh the Super Bowls higher, but a lot of people don't.
But I will say that the fans like Tomlin more than they like Big Ben.
Yeah, I mean, Steelers fans are finicky. They've been down on Tomlin. I think until Antonio Brown went ballistic, there were a lot of not so smart Steelers fans calling for his head. Like, Tomlin is a fantastic coach. You don't get rid of that guy.
The Freiermuth show. I like that.
So let's touch on the Browns receiving real quick. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Freiermuth. He's been hovering right around that 33.5 number, actually a little under it most of the time without Ebron in the lineup. Gentry's been playing pretty well as the number 2. Had a good game last week with Freiermuth out. So I don't know. And Cole, we're gonna get to the touchdown prop.
I threw Freiermuth in a little 50-50 daily fantasy lineup today because he's so cheap, and like you said, he always hovers around his number. Mm-hmm. You just hope he gets a touchdown. But yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion on him. Austin Hooper is interesting though.
Why is Austin Hooper interesting?
Because that's a number 25, and Baker Mayfield likes to target his tight ends, but at the same time, you have to deal with Harrison Bryant and Njoku. So
yeah, the model has Hooper at 22.5. So the other guys on the Browns, number wise, so Hooper 25.5, Njoku 19.5, Donovan Peoples-Jones 34.5, Harrison Bryant 8.5, Jarvis Landry 47.5, Chubb 11.5, Higgins 19.5.
Ooh, Hollywood Higgins! Shout out Colorado State.
Is that his actual nickname?
Yeah.
Why?
I think he's from California.
Oh.
Or maybe he's Hollywood. Because is Hollywood Brown? Is he from?
He's from Hollywood, Florida.
Hollywood, Florida. I gotcha.
So, from the model perspective, I think that there's 2 numbers that are really interesting here. And that's the Higgins number, who we were just talking about. His Vegas number is 19.5. Model has him at 41.3. And the other one is Donovan Peoples-Jones.
I'm rooting for the guy. All right.
I feel dirty saying this after what he did last week.
I am rooting for Peoples-Jones. You know what? New year. This is what we said on Sunday. Uh-huh. It's a new year.
New year, new people.
His therapist, he told him to meditate those drops, leave that negative energy behind. Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's gonna hit over, Nick.
Yeah, I think I like the over 34.5 for Donovan Peoples-Jones. It feels like a buy low number.
It does.
Because everybody's just disgusted by the way he played last week.
Yeah. Like no one's running to bet this over. No one. Maybe his friends and family, but that's about it. I'm looking at his targets. God, man, it's crazy. 5.5, 7, 8, 6. And then you look at his receptions. 1, 2. You got a 5 on one game and then 4 and 1. But yeah.
I mean,
they're dropping the ball.
I think it'll all even out. I think he's good.
Regression.
4 catches on average.
Yeah. What do you think?
I like the over.
8 targets, 5 catches, 40 yards. That seems like a reasonable stat line.
Yeah. Also, so capacity. Deontay Johnson has really turned that around. He actually only has 3 drops this year. I was looking at that. I was like, maybe it's just why people are on Claypool, but Deontay Johnson, he had hands of
cheese,
invisibleness that don't exist last year, but he only has 3 drops this year.
Also, Hollywood Brown too turned it around. He had like 3 drops in one game.
That was bad.
Yeah, you were probably watching every one.
What did he do the next game? He had I think a monster game the next time.
Yeah, he did.
Jones. Same thing.
We are putting this into existence.
Mm-hmm. I'm on the Peoples Jones train.
I'm a big Peoples guy.
I'm a big Peoples Jones guy. All right. Anything else? I missed the scroll bar and adjust the size.
I guess we talked about. Yeah, I'm good to move on. We can talk about touchdown props for a second, then
I don't have
give our best bets. Yeah, I mean, if we go into touchdown props, Nick, I haven't even looked at them, but I already know that Chubb's going to be like minus 130.
Yeah, minus 135 for Nick Chubb.
And I swear I just guessed that off the top, but it just seems like a number where, not where maybe it should be, but, asking someone where a number should be and asking where it's at, those are two different things. And yeah, minus 130 for both those guys.
Yeah, so capacity, running back rush number wise, I think it was Harris around 70 point something and Nick Chubb at like 61 point something. Although
and
Chubb should be a little bit higher because we had Kareem Hunt in. We weren't able to adjust for that change, so he should get a little bit extra volume with Johnson instead of Hunt, but still not close to the 93.
Yeah.
So touchdown prop wise, Najee Harris, far and away the guy that the model likes the most.
Yeah.
0.75 touchdowns on average. Again, not a 75% chance to score. 0.75 on average. His number's also minus 135. So from a value perspective, that looks, if you want one of the high-end guys, at least to be a better value than Chubb. If we look at these guys and how they've done, how often they score touchdowns, Najee Harris has touchdowns in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games out of 16 this year. So from that perspective, you should be looking for plus 100. Of course, this particular game is different, but 50% on the year for him.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Chubb has played in less games, but he has touchdowns in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games out of 12. So a little bit better than 50%. So from that perspective, maybe Chubb is the guy. Model has Chubb, though, down at 0.57. Here's just a quick scroll through.
Peoples Jones, baby.
Yeah, I mean, Peoples Jones could be the guy. He's at plus 250. Model has him at 0.54 touchdowns. So I mean, there's where your Chubb value has gone touchdown wise.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the model likes Harris more than Chubb because Harris is a lot more involved in the passing game.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So I think if I had to take a guy, Harris or Peoples Jones. But again, I don't really like touchdown props. So Ben, also somebody asked earlier, do you still like Najee Harris at 101.5?
Yes.
And we are still showing 96.5 on this on FanDuel.
Yeah, I hope you can shop around a little bit, but it's kind of interesting that it's still there, right? Like,
yeah, and it's not even like it's juiced, right? It's minus 113 both ways.
Let me see. What does FanDuel have for just his rushing and passing? Like, is there a discrepancy compared to DraftKings?
Let's see. So rushing yards,
just odd.
They have 70.5 for Harris, which is down by 3 or 4 yards.
Okay, so that's
takes up most of the difference.
Gotcha. So that's where the difference is probably at.
Yeah, and receiving they have 23.5.
And that's on both.
Yeah, I think that's what everybody has.
So
they just have
that's
Harris
interesting.
Low on rushing.
Well, I guess it kind of makes sense. I mean, the Bucs can, maybe take a stand on who they think is going to win, and it's only 3 yards, but it all adds up.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 yards.
4, yeah. That's significant.
Definitely. It definitely is. So, I guess to put maybe a better answer on that question, what is your favorite bet of today's game?
My favorite bet is going to be Najee Harris over 96.5 rushing and receiving yards. You can find that on FanDuel at -113. I think he has a big game tonight. And yeah, I'm going to go with the Rook from Bama.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm going to take, I guess we'll look at FanDuel here. Got a better number here. Donovan Peoples-Jones.
The people's choice.
Big bounce back game after it was drop city last week. We're going to go over 33.5 receiving yards. Model has him almost 20 yards higher than that. I don't know if he'll be in 53, but I think that he'll have consistent target volume from where it's been, 5-6 targets, and I think that he's not going to drop all of them.
Nick, I have the revenge narrative here.
The revenge narrative is like the Browns against Ben Roethlisberger.
Well, there's that.
It's
but Donovan Peoples-Jones went to Michigan. Michigan just got their ass kicked. This is the revenge for Michigan. Go blue. I tried.
Yeah, you tried.
Yeah.
What other revenge spots are there?
That's all I could really find. I could really find.
Did Miami, Ohio play in a bowl game?
They did.
How'd they do?
Let's see. So we want them to lose for this narrative, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the only motivation that Roethlisberger has. Right?
I think they won.
Is avenging his alma mater that he hasn't played for in like 19 years.
They won against North Texas, 27-14.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a thing. That revenge narrative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that's all I have for today. Ben, you got any last words about the game? Any last words about your namesake?
No last words here. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this all turns out. You know, it seems like the narrative is set with Big Ben, but hey, that's the beauty of the game. You got to go play.
Yeah, you know what's funny, Ben? So you're the Steelers and I'm the Browns, right? It's Ben Roethlisberger and Nick Chubb.
Yep, and Benny Snell.
Yeah, and Ben Snell. And
I feel like there's another Nick on the Browns.
the first thing that popped into my head was like David Nick Joku, but that's not actually his name.
But yeah, guys, best of luck tonight. And then Nick, Wednesday, we'll be streaming, correct?
Yeah. College basketball on Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. It will be me. It will be Ben. And it will be our good friend Chase Howell of Action Network. We're trying out something a little bit new for those streams. So be sure to tune in. Again, first one is on Wednesday. The idea is to have them be a lot more interactive. So there's going to be constant polls up for the chat to really gauge your opinion, get your leans up on the screen. You gotta argue amongst yourselves, argue with us about these games. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be games that are not all of them we're going to be talking about because we like the game. There's going to be games that are interesting for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a big public play? We're going to dissect that game. Is it the public? Is it the sharps? Is all of that stuff nonsense? Yes. We're going to have games about proverbial wagons. Right? Everybody
Yes.
loves wagon is like the word of the last couple months with teams that are hot against the spread. we're gonna look at games with teams like that. So hopefully, what it's gonna do is it's gonna create a little bit more active discussion, right, where we don't already have pre-formed opinions. We're gonna all work together to arrive at some conclusions. Kind of like, I guess, almost like what we do with these streams.
Yep.
But to a bigger extent. It's going to be a lot of fun. So be sure to tune in for that. Again, 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday.
All right, guys. Best of luck tonight. Go Harris, go Peoples-Jones, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.
Yep. Good luck. See you on Wednesday.
See ya.